Hey YouTube, you alright? How's it going? If you're on this video, I imagine you're wanting to know about science religion on the philosophy module of the AQA Religious Studies spec. I'm going to try and burn through this really quickly, so it shouldn't take more than 15 minutes. I suggest you pause the video and try and do the questions yourself. Yeah, it's your call though, isn't it? It's your life. Do what you like. Here's the topic. Here's the overview of the whole science religion topic. And one of the things on there is scientific truth versus religious truth. Is it versus, or should they work together? You decide. Firstly, you've got scientific truth. It tries to be objective. It tries to be, bless it, based on empirical evidence. It's peer-reviewed, which means that scientists check each other's work, and it is an evolving truth. Whereas religious truth is subjective, which means it's based on personal opinion, rather than on evidence necessarily, based on faith in religious texts, and it is an absolute unchanging truth, supposedly. But, is it really? Purgatory, anybody? The Catholics decided purgatory didn't exist anymore. Purgatory was a place in between heaven and hell, traditionally, that souls could go to and they'd work their way through. The soul will be purified by fire, which sounds kind of painful. But the Catholic Church seems to say, nah, it's not a thing anymore. Oh, no, it is. No, it's not. They can't decide. So, is it unchanging? I hope I'm not confusing you. So, absolute truth cannot change. It's always true. Whereas evolving truth can change depending on the circumstances and evidence. So, explain briefly the difference between scientific truth and religious truth. Here's the exam mark scheme for it. You only have to choose two of those. So literally you could write scientific truth is based on observation and experiments. 2 marks. All you have to write, don't write that whole paragraph, just 2 developed answer, it's fine. Are they compatible? Do they answer different kinds of questions? Well, is it true that science asks how and religion asks why? I'll leave that up to you to decide. You can believe in both. It's ridiculous to pit them against each other. You might agree with that. Like, if you look at that picture of a cell, isn't that incredible? That's all of your cells. You've got this mitochondria and this DNA and this Golgi apparatus and all of these, different bits that create your proteins. And, if you look at DNA replication, it's, insanely complicated. Or cell division. Have you ever really thought about mitosis or meiosis? Incredible that happens without us thinking about it. Is it possible that happens without some sort of mind behind it? Science would say, yes, it is. It's called evolution. Look it up. But religion might say, well, that's fine. You're telling me the how, but the why. Why are we here? Why is there something rather than nothing? As Leibniz asked. Good old Leibniz. Spelt with a Z. Anyway, this cartoon is sort of suggesting God maybe created evolution. Maybe he made evolution. Yeah? Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. What do you think? It's possible to believe in God and evolution. What do you think? Explain your opinion. 3 marks. Now, it's just asking for your opinion, this question. It's not asking for your opinion of what religious people would think, which is something AQA do, because they like to mess with your head, but this is just your opinion. Explain it. You only need to include 3 of these, and at the end there's an etc. You can see that as an etc. You just need to give 3 valid points. Okay, 2-sided answers are creditable but not required, so you can just explain your point. Just pick 3 of those, any 3. Pause it, have a look at them. Any 3 you like. Not the whole thing, just 3, just 3 of them. Why society seems to favour science over religion in the modern world? Well, it's quite obvious, isn't it? I mean, the only time we ever hear about religion in the news is when someone does something absolutely shocking, like the Twin Towers or what just happened in Manchester, which is where I live and work. It's obviously horribly rubbish, understatement of the century. But that's the only time we ever hear about religion, isn't it, in the news, when someone does something shocking. Or indeed, the stuff we don't hear about, like ISIS digging mass graves of young men in ISIS and abducting young girls and using them as sex slaves. Lovely, that's how we associate religion, isn't it, in the modern world? So maybe we should get rid of it. There's another side to religion, though, which often is not talked about in the mainstream media, so we'll explore that a little bit. So really this is about Big Bang and evolution. Is it that versus creation? Because depending on your belief, it does affect your action. Are they versus, or can they work together? So the idea of creation, that God created man out of dust and then breathed life into his nostrils. Yeah, that's what it says. He breathed life into man, and he became a living being. So God's breath is what animates us in the whole Christian, Judeo, and Muslim tradition. So what? Does it matter? Yeah, it does matter, because if you believe that God exists and wants me to give money to charity and to love everyone, then hopefully I'll give money to charity and try to love everyone, even my enemies. Not easy. God wants me to kill myself and kill others, as what happened in Manchester. Maybe someone will kill himself and others at the same time. There's a good side and a dark side to this, isn't it? So from the science side, there is no God or proven afterlife, so I'll just live for today. And maybe it's just materialistic. I'll get the most what I can out of life. I hear this from kids in school sometimes. It doesn't matter if I get rich making poisonous products or weapons, because, you know, when I'm dead, I'm dead. Just get rich, just enjoy it, whatever. Give the money to my kids. However, some scientists say that you have a duty to humanity to reduce others' suffering because you're human. So they do help others. So, you know, Bill Gates, an atheist, gave $17.9 billion to charity. $1 billion. That's such a ridiculous amount of money. And he's an atheist. So, you know, they're not all atheists are stingy. Prince Al-Wahid bin Talal, sorry if I said your name wrong, mate, has given his entire fortune to charity, $28 billion. And he's a Muslim. You don't hear about him in the news, do you? $28 billion. Oh, my days. On the whole, religious people are more generous than secular people, as this clever chart shows you. It's quite a big difference, I think. I think it is quite a big difference. Yeah. Every religion, every mythology is true in this sense. It's metaphorical of the mystery of life. Yeah, okay. So maybe the Genesis story is a metaphorical truth, not a literal truth. So it's not trying to do the same thing as science. Got to learn about the cosmological revolution as well. A revolution of the cosmos. I like that term. In the Middle Ages, the church was very powerful. It helped decide laws. It gave king and queens their authority. It said that kings and queens were appointed by God. That's where they got their power from. So the church and the state worked together to control the population. Control their ideas, their actions, and money, right? So the church and the state worked together. Which is why Marx said famously, religion is the opium of the people. So what does opium do to people? Well, these are a couple of people smoking opium. And it makes people very docile and easy to control. So Marx is saying religion helps people to sleep and not face injustice and stand up against it. Don't know what you think about that. Certainly, I think it's been true in the past, personally speaking. What did Copernicus and Galileo suggest? Why was it controversial? Well, what they suggested was, in fact, that the sun did not go round the earth, that the earth went round the sun, which meant that we were not the centre of the story of the universe, and this was completely contrary to the church. It undermined the church's authority, and there was a massive, it was really controversial, and it takes a great scientific mind to see what everyone else has seen, but to think what no one else has thought. I love that quote. To really think differently from everyone else. Think out of the box. Think for yourself. You. Think for yourself. So what happened to Galileo? Galileo was imprisoned and he died under house arrest for suggesting that the earth was not at the centre of the universe. The idea that the sun is at the centre of the universe is called heliocentric. It's written at the bottom of the screen. And the word for earth-centred is geocentric. If you learn these key words, the examiner will like you and give you marks. So use keywords if you know them. Don't just ramble on about stuff. The idea of evolution also massively challenged the church because, of course, the church had said, no, look, God created the world in 6 days and he had a rest on the 7th. Quite hard work creating the universe, fair enough. And William Paley's idea of natural theology was very popular, that the world was too complicated to just happen by chance. But Darwin's Origin of the Species in 1859 said something really quite different, that species evolved slowly over time through natural selection and survival of the fittest. So that was a massive challenge to the church. And even Darwin suggested that it was absurd in the highest possible degree to suggest that the eye, which is massively complicated, you've learnt about it in biology, so I'm not going to go over it now, but it's crazy complicated, with all its imitable contrivances for adjusting the focus and all the cells at the back, I'm talking about the eye now, that sense even like a single photon of light with the rods, that to just evolve by natural selection. Darwin said, no way, mate. However, recent advances in science, like a scientist called Mandelbrot, came up with a mathematical equation which was infinitely complicated. There are pictures of it there. It's sort of this really simple formula called a feedback loop, where science feeds into itself and creates increasingly complicated structures. And Mandelbrot suggested that through this process over billions of years, extremely complicated repeating patterns could exist in nature without the need of a deity. It was just a mathematical law. So gradually maths and evolution are beginning to explain the complexity of the universe. There you can see a formula. So again, why does this matter? Because what you believe changes how you act. Your ideas influence your action, right? So story and belief put together turns into different action. If you believe that the Genesis story is true, that God created us, you might not smoke or drink alcohol because he made our bodies and like God's good, so we shouldn't destroy what he made. But if you're just like, I'll do whatever I like, God doesn't exist, it's a fairy tale made up by some nutter who was bored, then I guess you believe you could do what you like, eh? Maybe you disagree. Comment below. Explain how believing that God created the world might influence the way religious believers live their lives. Again, loads of stuff. Pause the video, have a go at this question. Pause. And now we carry on. Which is, students may include any of the following. Again, just 4 of those. Just 4. Doesn't really need to be longer than 3 sentences, your answer to this question. Pick any 3 of those. Go wild, you know what I mean? People may show respect towards God's creations. That's stewardship, if you've learnt about that. Maybe sustainable development, give money to charity, you get the idea. I'm just rambling now, aren't I? So can they agree? This is what Einstein said. Yes, Einstein. Science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. The idea that religion helps science to think of things it hasn't thought of before. If you look up Christians in science on Google, lots of Christians are also very successful scientists. So apparently they can work together. Religion without science is blind. So science helps religion see the wonder of creation, which God made, according to Einstein. This guy, Monsieur Lemaitre, he was a Catholic priest and physicist. He came up with the idea of the Big Bang with someone else, and he was Catholic. So, yeah, they can work together. Isaac Newton came up with the idea of gravity. He always wrote religious poetry. In fact, he thought he would be remembered for his religious poetry, not for the whole, gravity thing and for Newtonian laws, which I'm not going to go into. And Gregor Mendel, who came up with modern genetics and was also a monk. So, yes, is the answer to that question. They can work together. Whether they should or not, you can decide that. The Tao of Physics, a book written by a wickedly named guy called Fridtjof Capra. You smashed it in the name camp, my friend. And this guy, Werner Heisenberg, came up with this quote, which is that when you start with scientists, it makes you an atheist. But when you get to the bottom of the glass, God's waiting for you, suggesting that the infinite complexity of quantum physics makes you believe there must be some sort of infinite consciousness behind this material world. That was material world. 6-mark question here. Again, some of you are freaking out about 6-mark questions. Oh, how do I do it in 10 minutes? Well, it's simple. You don't write very much. That's what you do. So there's a 6-mark question, and it's very simply, you just include just 3 of those. Doesn't need to be more than 3 sentences. 3 sentences is plenty. Can even do it in less than that, if I'm being completely honest. If they're well-written sentences, or 3 of these. That's also fine. So, stop freaking out about it. You can totally do this. I'll give you an example. So agree, look at that. You can write that. You can write that in 6 minutes. What are you freaking out about? It's fine. Big difference between Genesis creation story and the Big Bang Theory. For example, Genesis says there was darkness, and then God created light, 1 mark. In the creation story, the universe began at God's command, 2 marks. By contrast, the Big Bang Theory suggests the universe began before 10 to 15 billion years ago. You've compared them. They're too different to be true. 3 marks. Boom. Bonus point if you like. Mention fundamentalist Christians. If you've got time, why not? Bonus. However, if Genesis is not taken literally, the two accounts can be compatible. 1 mark. God could have made Big Bang or evolution happen. Example, another mark. Genesis is not meant to be a scientific account, and in Hebrew the word for the day is the same as eon. Nice point. 1 mark. Thanks, Mr. Few. Yeah, thanks. I know, I tried hard on that one. It's therefore possible the Genesis story is a metaphor of the theory of Big Bang and evolution. They can both be true. Boom. There you go. Science from religion. 6 mark questions sorted out. Don't freak out. Sort your life out. That came out bad. No, I didn't mean that. I'm sure your life is well sorted. Awkward. Subscribe?